It's not just the physical things that are tough. Your mind and your emotions get a good workout too, until you're able to accept the way things are done in this new life.
You're so right.
Remember that session you had with the company commander the second week of training?
How could I forget it?
You had a problem, didn't you?
Well, it didn't seem like much of a problem to me, but everyone else thought it was, so I took it to the CO. I wanted to get a weekend pass.
But hadn't it been explained to you that you couldn't get a pass until the end of your 4th week, except in an emergency?
Sure it had, but, well, this was an emergency. As I explained to Lieutenant Izette, I'd had tickets for one of the big shows in New York for a couple of months, and I'd been counting on taking my girl. It was her birthday. So far as I was concerned, it was a real emergency, and the rules that were blocking it were nothing that reasonable men couldn't solve together. Lieutenant Izette was fair enough, if you can consider any man fair while he's turning you down. He explained that there were rules and that exceptions couldn't be made for one man, and that important as my reason may be to me, it didn't quite classify as an emergency as far as the Army was concerned. Well, I can't say I liked it very much, and I guess my face showed that I didn't.
Let me give you a little advice, Baker. This is your first setback in the Army. Don't let it throw you. It won't make your job, or ours, any easier. And it may make it tougher.
Yes, sir.
What did you do in civilian life, Baker?
I just got out of school, sir. I had an offer of a good job, and, well, I was planning on being married in a few months.
It's still a little hard to get used to the idea that there's been a change in those plans, isn't it?
Well, yes, sir, a little.
You don't resent having to come into the Army, do you?
Resent it? Oh, no, sir. Only...
Only what?
Well, sir, it's just that, well, we're not at war or anything, and, well, it's a little difficult to understand.
And it's hard to understand why your life has to be conducted as if we were at war. Is that it?
Oh, yes, sir, something like that.
Baker, do you have a very clear idea of why we're not at war?
Well,
Let me tell you why we're not. We're not at war because you and several thousand men like you go into the service every year and train just as if there were a war. If we weren't a strong nation, it's anybody's guess what would have happened to us before now. And the only way we can remain a strong nation is to have a fighting team that's ready to go anywhere, anytime. That's why you're in instead of back with your job. You're training for a war we hope we'll never have to fight. And the only real hope we have that we'll never have to fight it is for you to soldier with everything you've got. That's why you're not going to be able to get that pass until the proper time. Does it make sense now?
well, yes, a little anyway, sir.
Good. You're going to learn a lot about yourself in these next few weeks, Baker. You'll discover things you never dreamed were in you. Apply yourself as best you can and watch what happens.
Yes, sir.
Well, I watched. And I felt lots of things happen.